Howdy folks, and welcome back to the Ed Sullivan Show. And before our standard broadcasting today, here's a quick presentation about the diseases of the 20th to 21st century. Thank you. Polio endemic. Polio was a deadly and contagious disease, especially during the 50s and 60s, and largely affected children 5 and under. Polio, or poliomyelitis, spread through fecal matter entering the mouth, with symptoms including sore throat, fever, tiredness, nausea, headache, stomach pain, paresthesia, which is the feeling of pain in needles, meningitis, which is the swelling of protective membranes covering the brain and the spinal cord, and the most severe of all, paralysis. Polio spread quickly during the summer months because it thrived in swimming pools and aquatic areas, which made people afraid to go swimming, which caused new innovations in pool cleaning technology, which is chlorine. So, the more you know. Polio has been largely wiped out in the modern world, but is still prevalent in third world countries. For example, Pakistan still has a lot of cases of polio around because of its poor sanitation and poor public health infrastructure, meaning that it's not funded properly. Also, the tropical climate makes it that the polio vaccine is less effective. The last example is Afghanistan, which has all the same reasons as Pakistan, but its only difference is that it's worsened by the effects of war. Beginning in the 40s, there were 2 attempts to making a polio vaccine by Dr. Maurice Brodie and Dr. John Colmer, both of which failed. It was only after about a decade later, Dr. Salk's vaccine became the most widely used and the one to eradicate polio from the US. When the vaccine first came out, people were afraid to get it since vaccination was a fairly new concept at the time. It was only after Elvis Presley took the vaccine live on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1956, which convinced people to get the vaccine. In the next 6 months, vaccination rates would go up by 80%.
Cholera. Cholera is a waterborne disease that originated in India and is known as one of the worst diseases from the 20th century. It killed over 1.5 million people in Russia, India, and the Philippines. Symptoms of cholera include watery and severe diarrhea, vomiting, leg cramps, and dehydration. Cholera can be spread by consuming food or water contaminated by human feces, and the disease can be treated through rehydration and antibiotics. The first outbreak of cholera emerged through contaminated rice, water, and seafood. Cholera is very rare in the United States, but the disease still exists today, mainly in underdeveloped countries that lack proper water supplies and sewage disposal. These countries include Sub-Saharan Africa, South and Southeast Asia, and some parts of the Middle East and South America.
Alright, you might be thinking, how does one get fecal matter into their mouth? Well, let me tell you. Hopefully, if they didn't ingest it on purpose, this is the most likely way people can come into contact with it. It starts with a person carrying the disease creating fecal matter. This fecal matter can be intentionally or unintentionally dumped to a source of drinking water. This is most common in parts of the world with poor water sanitation. From here, anybody who ingests the water will contract the disease. The effects can be worsened if the carrier unintentionally spreads the disease to their community by sharing food and water. This, left untreated, can ultimately lead to death.
The Spanish flu. The 1918 Spanish flu was an airborne disease that rapidly spread worldwide. In only a year and a half, the virus was able to infect almost a third of the world's population, with an estimated death toll of 50 million. Despite its name, the origins of the Spanish flu are unknown, but the first known cases of the disease were located in military bases. The virus should be fostered by large crowds of soldiers who constantly traveled, giving opportunities for the virus to spread. Those infected by the Spanish flu experienced symptoms such as pneumonia, fevers, nausea, and diarrhea. One factor that made the Spanish flu so deadly was the lack of treatment for it. Because the Spanish flu started appearing during World War I, many doctors were off fighting. Also, the causes of the disease were not even known at the time. Air pollution also made the Spanish flu worse. Cities that burned more coal had higher mortality rates relative to those that didn't. And finally, the Spanish flu pandemic was considered over in 1920, 2 years after it started. Naturally, because so many people were infected with the virus, they eventually began developing immunity against it. People also became more knowledgeable on how to avoid the Spanish flu. Sources such as newspapers would advise people to start practicing social distancing, wearing masks, and washing their hands more often. Years later, a vaccine was developed with the use of fertilized hen eggs. Today, the Spanish flu is gone, but descendants of it, known as the modern-day flu, still exist.
COVID-19. COVID-19 originated in Wuhan, China during December 2019 and has killed over 6 million people worldwide. Its symptoms include coughing, sneezing, sore throat, fever, and difficulty breathing. It can be spread by little droplets to the air by coughing, sneezing, or breathing, and can be treated by vaccines and quarantining. Air pollution contributes to increased mortality and may increase coronavirus risk. Temperature also affects how COVID spreads. Hot weather slows down COVID infections, while cold weather increases infections, because COVID is a seasonal flu. Today, Shanghai, China is in lockdown again, and cases are spiking even after the drop in cases during the winter.
Air pollution. It lurks all around us, preying on the young and old. It slips unnoticed past your defenses and assaults your lungs, heart, and brain. Its deadliest weapons are invisible, poisonous particles that can be as small as a molecule. With every breath, they break through your lungs' protective barriers. There, they trigger inflammation as your system tries desperately to fight back. But these tiny intruders penetrate those defenses, lodging toxic compounds even deeper, sowing the seeds of cancer. They slide straight into your bloodstream, sabotaging your entire body. They inflame and constrict your blood vessels, increasing blood pressure until, one day, causing a stroke. The particle prowlers dislodge fatty plaque that may have built up from your diet. They weave clots that can be deadly blockers of blood flow to your heart or brain. With each new case of heart attack, stroke, lung disease, or cancer, air pollution adds another life to its hit list. Let's stop this invisible killer.